The coffee cup slipped from my hand and shattered on the cafe floor. Brown liquid spread across the tiles, but I couldn't move. I couldn't breathe. My 15-year-old daughter stood 3 feet away from me, tears streaming down her face, her voice shaking with rage. "You left me, Mom. Dad said you didn't even care enough to call." The words hit like a physical blow. Around us, conversations stopped. Heads turned. But all I could see was Emma, my baby girl, the child I hadn't touched in 3 years. Her hair was longer now, pulled back in a ponytail. She'd grown taller, lost the softness of childhood, but her eyes were the same. Brown, like mine, except now they were filled with hatred. "Emma, that's not true," I whispered. "Don't lie to me," her voice cracked. "You abandoned us, you chose yourself over me." My hands trembled as I reached for her. "Please, let me explain." She stepped back, disgusted. "There's nothing to explain, you left. That's all I need to know." Someone behind the counter called out about the broken cup, but I barely heard it. My world had narrowed to this moment. This lie. This impossible, devastating lie that had poisoned my daughter against me. "Emma, I never stopped trying to reach you." She turned and walked out of the cafe, leaving me standing in a puddle of spilled coffee, my heart breaking all over again. My name is Erin, and I haven't seen my daughter in 3 years. Not because I didn't want to, not because I stopped trying, but because my ex-husband, Mark, made sure I couldn't. The custody battle destroyed me. Mark had money for a better lawyer, a polished story about my mental health, and the patience to manipulate every detail in his favor. He told the court I was unstable, depressed, unfit to parent. The judge believed him. I was granted supervised visitation rights, pending evaluation, but Mark never scheduled those visits. He'd cancel last minute, claim Emma was sick, say she didn't want to see me. The system moved slowly, and by the time anyone questioned it, he'd moved to another town. My only lifeline was supposed to be phone calls. The custody agreement stated I could call Emma twice a week. I called more than that. Every Sunday at 7 p.m., without fail, I dialed her number. At first, she'd answer. Her small voice would say, "Hello," and my heart would soar. But then Mark's voice would cut in. "Don't call here again," he'd say, and the line would go dead. I'd sit there, phone pressed to my ear, listening to nothing. Then I'd whisper to the empty connection, "Tell her I love her." He never did. The first time it happened, I thought it was a mistake, maybe bad reception. Maybe Emma had accidentally hung up. I called back immediately. Mark answered this time, his voice cold. "Stop calling." "I have the right to speak to my daughter. The court order says..." "The court order says supervised contact. You think a phone call counts?" "Mark, please. I just want to hear her voice." "She doesn't want to talk to you." "Let her tell me that." There was a long pause. I could hear Emma in the background asking who was on the phone. My heart leaped. "Nobody important," Mark said to her. Then to me, "Leave us alone, Erin. You lost. Accept it." The line went dead. I sat on my apartment floor, phone still pressed to my ear, and cried. But I didn't give up. The next Sunday I called again, and the Sunday after that, and every Sunday for the next 3 years. Sometimes Emma answered. Sometimes Mark did. Sometimes it went straight to voicemail. But I never stopped calling. By the 3rd month, I'd developed a ritual. Every Sunday at exactly 7 p.m., I'd sit on my couch with my phone and dial Emma's number. Most of the time, it went to voicemail. So I started leaving messages. At first, they were simple. "Hi, sweetie, it's Mom. I hope you had a good week. I love you." Then they got longer, more detailed. I'd tell her about my day, about the weather, about a funny thing I saw at the grocery store. Anything to make her feel like I was still part of her life. "I made your favorite cookies today," I said in one message. "Chocolate chip with extra chips, just how you like them. I put them in the freezer for when you come home." Another time, "I kept your room exactly the same. Your stuffed animals are still on your bed. Your posters are still on the walls. It's waiting for you." I didn't know if she listened to them. I didn't know if Mark deleted them before she could. But I refused to disappear. I refused to let him erase me from her life without a fight. The voicemails became my lifeline, a way to keep being her mother, even from a distance. The custody hearing had been a nightmare. Mark's lawyer was sharp, professional, and ruthless. He presented text messages I'd supposedly sent, filled with angry words and threats, except I'd never written them. My attorney objected, but the damage was done. The judge looked at me with suspicion. "Your Honor," my lawyer said desperately, "these messages could easily be fabricated." "Or," Mark's lawyer countered smoothly, "they could be evidence of an unstable woman who shouldn't have custody of a vulnerable child." Mark sat beside his lawyer, playing the part of the concerned father perfectly. Worried eyes, sad expression. He'd even worn a tie. When the judge announced his decision, granting Mark full custody with my visitation to be supervised and scheduled at his discretion, I felt my world collapse. I walked out of that courthouse barely able to breathe. My lawyer patted my shoulder. "We can appeal." But I knew Mark had won. He'd taken our daughter like she was a trophy, proof of his victory. And I had nothing but the right to call twice a week, a right he immediately began to ignore. 3 months after the custody hearing, Mark moved. He didn't tell me where. The address I'd been sending Emma's birthday gifts to suddenly stopped working. The carefully wrapped packages came back marked, "No longer at this address." I tried calling the school Emma attended. They wouldn't give me information, citing privacy concerns. I contacted Mark's lawyer, who sent a cold email. "My client has relocated for employment purposes. He is not required to provide you with his new address given the current custody arrangement." I felt like I was losing her all over again. Mark wasn't just keeping her from me physically. He was erasing every possible connection, every thread that tied us together. I hired a private investigator with money I didn't have. It took him 2 weeks to find Mark's new address, a house in a nice suburb, 40 miles away. I drove there once just to see it, sat in my car across the street watching the windows. I saw Emma's shadow pass by an upstairs room, just her outline, but it was enough to make me cry. I wanted to knock on the door, demand to see her, but I knew Mark would call the police, claim I was violating the custody order, and I'd lose even more. So I drove away, feeling more helpless than ever. 6 months into the silence, I got a message from Vanessa, a mutual friend from before the divorce. We'd been close once, but Mark had slowly convinced most of our friends that I was the problem. Her message was short. "I need to tell you something." We met at a park, away from anyone who might report back to Mark. She looked uncomfortable, twisting her coffee cup in her hands. "I don't know if I should be telling you this," she said. "Please, whatever it is, I need to know." She took a deep breath. "Mark's been telling everyone you left, that you abandoned Emma. He says you're in rehab for depression and didn't want custody." The air left my lungs. "What?" "He's been very convincing. Says you call sometimes, but it upsets Emma, so he's protecting her by not putting her on the phone." My hands shook. Did he tell Emma that too? Vanessa's eyes filled with tears. "I think so. I heard her telling my daughter that her mom didn't want her anymore." I couldn't speak, couldn't process it. Mark hadn't just taken Emma. He'd rewritten our entire history, made me the villain in a story I didn't even know was being told. "I'm sorry," Vanessa whispered. "I should have reached out sooner." But the damage was already done. That night, I tried calling Emma's number, the one I'd memorized, the one I called every Sunday without fail. It rang twice, then a recorded message. "The number you have dialed is no longer in service." I dialed again, same message. Again. Mark had disconnected it, cut off my last connection to my daughter. I sat on my bathroom floor and sobbed until I couldn't breathe. This was it. He'd finally succeeded in erasing me completely. But then I remembered something. My old phone. The one I'd used for the first 6 months of calls before upgrading. I'd kept all the voicemails I'd left, saved in the phone's memory as backups. I dug through my closet until I found it, plugged it in, and waited for it to power on. When it did, I opened the voicemail folder. 63 saved messages. My voice speaking to my daughter, proof that I'd never stopped trying. I backed them all up to my computer, then to a cloud drive. Just in case. Just in case someday Emma wanted proof that I'd never abandoned her. Just in case someday she wanted to know the truth. Every Christmas, I sent Emma a box. Inside was a card with a handwritten letter, a photo of the two of us from before the divorce, and a small gift. Something I thought she'd like based on the age she was now. The first Christmas, the box came back unopened after 3 weeks. The second Christmas, same thing. The third Christmas, I mailed it early, hoping maybe this time would be different. It arrived back on Christmas Eve. But this time, someone had written across the return label in thick black marker, "Stop trying." I sat on my kitchen floor, holding that box, and cried until my throat hurt. The cruelty of it broke something inside me. Mark wasn't just keeping Emma from me. He was actively making sure I knew how powerless I was. But I didn't stop. The next year I sent another box, and another, and another. They all came back, but I kept sending them. Because one day, Emma would be old enough to ask questions. One day, she'd want to know if her mother had really abandoned her. And when that day came, I wanted her to know I'd never stopped trying. I started therapy 6 months after the move. My therapist, Patricia, was patient and kind. She didn't judge me for the days I couldn't stop crying or the nights I couldn't sleep. "You're grieving," she told me. "This is a type of loss. You need to allow yourself to feel it." I got a new job at an accounting firm. My coworkers were friendly, professional. They'd ask about my weekend plans, my hobbies. Nobody asked if I had kids. I never volunteered the information. Because if I said it out loud, if I told someone, "I have a daughter I haven't seen in 2 years," I'd break down completely. I moved into a small apartment. 1 bedroom, just enough space for me, and the room I kept ready for Emma. Her stuffed animals sat on the bed. Her favorite books lined a small shelf. Everything waiting for a day that might never come. But every Sunday at 7 p.m., I kept my ritual. I'd found Mark's new number through the investigator. I'd dial it, knowing it would go to voicemail and leave a message. "Hi, baby, it's Mom. I hope school was fun today. I love you so much." Always the same, always consistent, always there even when she couldn't hear me. 3 years after the custody hearing, I was scrolling through social media when I saw it. A photo tagged with Emma's name. Mark and Emma at a school fundraiser, both smiling, his arm around her shoulders. My hand froze on the mouse. Emma looked so grown up. She was wearing makeup now. Her hair was styled. She looked happy. I clicked on the tag. The profile belonged to another parent, and for exactly 1 minute it was public. I could see everything. Emma's school, her friends, her life that I wasn't part of. I screenshotted everything before the profile locked again. Among the photos was one of Emma with another girl, arms linked, both laughing. The caption said, "Best friends forever." I found the other girl's profile, locked, but her mother's profile was partially visible. Her name was Catherine. I sat there for an hour, staring at that name, debating. Then I sent a message request. "My name is Erin. I'm Emma's mother. I know this is unusual, but could you please tell her that her mother never stopped loving her, that I've been trying to reach her for 3 years. I hit send before I could second-guess myself. Then I waited. Weeks passed with no response. I checked my message requests obsessively, hopping for a reply. Nothing. I'd almost given up when, one night at 11 p.m., my phone buzzed. A message from Catherine. Just 3 dots. Someone was typing. Then, I don't know if I should get involved in this. My fingers flew across the keyboard. I understand. I'm not asking you to do anything except tell her the truth, that I never abandoned her, that I've called every week for 3 years. The dots appeared again, disappeared, appeared. She's not ready to hear this. She believes what her father told her. I know, but someday she'll want the truth. Please, just plant the seed. A long pause, then, I'll tell her, but I can't promise anything. Thank you so much. I put my phone down and cried. Not from sadness this time, but from hope. For the first time in 3 years, someone was going to tell Emma the truth. It was a start. 4 months later, my phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. I almost deleted it, assuming it was spam. Then I read it. "This is Emma. Is it true you called every week?" My heart stopped. My hands shook so badly I could barely type. "Yes, every Sunday at 7 p.m. I still do." I watched the screen, waiting. The dots appeared, disappeared. Appeared again. "Dad said you never called. He said you didn't want me." Tears blurred my vision. "I've wanted nothing more than to talk to you for 3 years. Your father changed his number so I couldn't reach you, but I never stopped trying." The dots again, then, "I don't believe you." Those 4 words hurt, but I understood. Of course she didn't believe me. She'd spent 3 years being told I'd abandoned her. "I can prove it," I typed. "I saved every voicemail I left, all of them. Do you want to hear them?" A long pause, then, "Yes." I opened my backup files with shaking hands and sent the first recording. From 3 years ago, just days after Mark had cut off contact. "Hi, sweetie, it's Mom. I hope you had a good week. I love you." I waited, holding my breath. Finally, Emma replied, "That's your voice." "Yes." Another pause. "Play me another." I sent them one by one. Each voicemail a piece of my heart, a moment frozen in time. My voice speaking into the void, hoping Emma would someday hear me. Message 12. "I saw a cardinal today. Remember how we used to watch them in the backyard? I thought of you." Message 28. "I drove past your favorite ice cream shop. They still have mint chocolate chip. I almost stopped, but it felt wrong without you." Message 47. "Happy birthday, sweetheart. I wish I could be there. I made you a cake anyway, just in case." Emma didn't reply between messages, just kept asking for more. "Another one. Send the next one. Keep going." I sent 50, then 100, then all 156. The sound of a mother who never stopped calling, who never stopped hopping, who never stopped loving her daughter, even when that daughter had been taught to hate her. Finally, after the last message played, Emma sent a single text. "I want to see you." I collapsed onto my couch, sobbing so hard I couldn't breathe. 3 years. 3 years of waiting, hopping, fighting. "When?" I typed back. "Tomorrow. There's a cafe on Palmer Street. Can you meet me at 2? Palmer Street, the same cafe where I'd run into her months ago, where this all started. "I'll be there," I replied. I barely slept that night. I changed my outfit 5 times the next morning, trying to look like a mother Emma would recognize. Not too desperate, not too different, just me. I arrived at the cafe 20 minutes early and ordered tea I couldn't drink. My hands shook. My stomach churned. What if she didn't show up? What if this was a cruel joke? What if Mark had found out and stopped her? At exactly 2 p.m., the door opened. Emma walked in, wearing jeans and a hoodie, her backpack slung over one shoulder. She looked around nervously until she saw me. For a moment, we just stared at each other. Then she walked over and sat down across from me, her arms crossed defensively. "Hi," I whispered. "Hi." An awkward silence stretched between us. I wanted to reach across the table, take her hand, pull her into a hug, but I didn't move. This had to be at her pace. "I listened to all of them," she finally said. "All 156 voicemails. And I have questions." I nodded. "Ask me anything." She pulled out her phone, opened her notes app. She'd written a list. "Dad said you were unstable, that you chose not to fight for custody." "That's not true. I fought as hard as I could. Your father had more money, a better lawyer, and he manufactured evidence against me." Her jaw tightened. "What kind of evidence?" I told her everything. The fake text messages. The way Mark had painted me as depressed and dangerous. The custody hearing where I'd lost because his lawyer was more convincing than the truth. "I was granted supervised visitation," I explained. "But your father never scheduled it. He'd cancel last minute or claim you were sick. Then he moved without telling me where." Emma's hands clenched on the table. He said you knew where we were, that you just didn't visit. I hired an investigator to find you. It cost me 2 months' rent. When I found your house, I drove there once just to see it. I sat outside for an hour, hoping I'd see you. Why didn't you knock? Because your father would have called the police, claimed I was violating the custody order, and I'd lose even more rights to see you. She was quiet, processing. Then, what about the phone calls? Dad said you only called a few times and gave up. I pulled out my phone, opened my call log backup. I called every Sunday at 7 p.m. for 3 years, 156 weeks. Your father answered sometimes and hung up. Sometimes it went to voicemail. Then he changed the number. I showed her the screen. Row after row after row of calls to the same number, all lasting less than 10 seconds or going to voicemail. Emma stared at the screen, her face pale. You really never stopped. Never. Emma went home that day with more questions than answers. I could see it in her eyes, the way her worldview was cracking. Everything she'd believed about me, about her father, about our family, was suddenly unstable. She texted me that night, "Can we meet again tomorrow?" Of course. Over the next 2 weeks, we met 4 more times. Each meeting, she asked more questions. Each time, I showed her more evidence. The returned Christmas boxes, the birthday cards, the emails to Mark's lawyer begging for visitation. Then one day, she asked the question I'd been dreading. Why would Dad lie to me like that? I chose my words carefully. Your father and I didn't end well. He was angry at me for leaving the marriage. I think he wanted to punish me by taking the one thing I loved most, you. But he made me hate you. I know. For 3 years, I thought you didn't want me. Her voice broke. I thought I wasn't good enough for my own mother. I reached across the table and took her hand. She didn't pull away. Emma, you have always been enough. You have always been loved. Your father's lies don't change that. She squeezed my hand, tears streaming down her face. I need to talk to him. Are you sure? I need to hear him explain this. I need to hear him try to justify it. I was terrified of what would happen, but I also knew she deserved answers from him, not just me. That night, I couldn't sleep. I knew Emma was confronting Mark. I knew he'd be furious when he found out we'd reconnected. Part of me worried he'd manipulate her again, convince her I was lying. But Emma was 15 now, not 12. She'd heard the voicemails, seen the evidence. The truth was stronger than his lies. My phone buzzed at midnight. Emma. He denied everything, said the voicemails were fake, that you'd fabricated them somehow. My heart sank. Emma. But then I played him voicemail 74, the one where you said, I don't know if you'll ever hear this, but I love you no matter what he says. I remembered that one. It was from a year ago, on a particularly hard day when I'd almost given up. What did he do? He got really quiet. Then he started yelling, said you'd poisoned me against him, that you were manipulating me. What did you say? I asked him why, if the voicemails were fake, did he change his phone number? Why did he tell everyone you were in rehab? Why did he return all the Christmas boxes? Silence on her end. Then, he couldn't answer, he just kept yelling. I closed my eyes, feeling a mix of victory and sadness. I'm sorry you had to go through that. Don't be sorry, Mom. I needed to see it for myself. Mom, she'd called me Mom. The next day, Emma told me what happened after I hung up. She'd stood in Mark's living room, phone in hand, playing the voicemails one after another. His face had gone from angry to pale to panicked. This one's from 2 years ago, she'd said, pressing play. My voice filled the room. Hi, baby, I made cookies today, chocolate chip. I put them in the freezer for when you come home. Mark had tried to leave the room, but Emma blocked him. No, you're going to listen to all of them. Message after message, week after week, year after year, the sound of a mother who never stopped trying. When message 86 played, Mark had slammed his fist on the table. Enough! I did what I had to do. What you had to do, Emma's voice rose. You lied to me. You made me think my own mother didn't love me. She left us, he'd shouted. She destroyed our family. No, you destroyed it. You turned me against her because you were angry at her for leaving you. That's not parenting, that's revenge. Mark had stared at her, breathing hard. For a moment, Emma thought he might apologize, might finally admit what he'd done. Instead, he'd said, "You don't understand. You're just a kid." "I understand perfectly," Emma had replied. "You're a liar." She'd stormed out, leaving him alone with the echoes of my voice still playing from her phone. Mark called me the next morning. I almost didn't answer, but something made me pick up. "You've turned my daughter against me," he said without preamble. I told her the truth. That's not the same thing. "You manipulated her with those voicemails, made yourself look like a victim." "I am a victim, Mark. You stole 3 years of my daughter's life. You lied to her, poisoned her against me, and erased me from her childhood. I protected her from you." From what? From a mother who loved her. From someone who called every week just to hear her voice. You didn't protect her. You hurt her. Silence, then quieter. I was angry. "I know. You left me. You broke our family." "I left a marriage that was making me miserable. I never left Emma. You made sure she thought I did." More silence. When he spoke again, his voice was broken. "I ruined everything, didn't I?" For a moment, I felt a flicker of sympathy, but only a moment. "You didn't ruin everything," I said calmly. "You just lost what you tried to control. Emma's smart enough to see the truth now. She hates me. She's hurt. There's a difference, but that's something you'll have to work out with her, not me." I hung up, and for the first time in 3 years, I felt peace. Not because I'd won, but because the truth was finally out. A week later, Emma showed up at my apartment with a suitcase. I opened the door to find her standing there, tears streaming down her face. "Can I stay here for a while?" she asked. I didn't answer. I just pulled her into my arms and held her. She collapsed against me, sobbing, and I cried too. 3 years of separation, 3 years of lies, all breaking apart in that moment. "You can stay as long as you want," I whispered into her hair. "I missed you so much," she sobbed. "Even when I thought I hated you, I missed you." "I missed you too, baby, every single day." We stood in the doorway, holding each other, making up for all the hugs we'd missed, all the moments that had been stolen from us. Finally, I pulled back and looked at her. "Come on, let me show you your room." I led her down the hall to the bedroom I'd kept ready for 3 years. She stopped in the doorway, staring. Her stuffed animals were still arranged on the bed. Her posters were still on the walls. Everything exactly as she remembered from before the divorce. "You kept it," she whispered. "I never stopped believing you'd come home." She walked in slowly, touching everything like she was rediscovering a dream. Then she turned to me and smiled through her tears. "I'm home, Mom." Mark hired a lawyer the next day, threatening to file for Emma's immediate return. But Emma was 15 now, old enough for her voice to matter in court, and her voice was clear. "I want to live with my mother." My lawyer, a sharp woman named Victoria whom I'd hired with my saved-up emergency fund, compiled everything. The voicemails, the returned packages, the documentation of Mark's interference with custody agreements. "He violated the custody order repeatedly," Victoria explained to me. "By preventing you from having phone contact and refusing to schedule supervised visits, he was in contempt of court. We can use that." Mark's reputation as the devoted single father began crumbling fast. Other parents from Emma's school started coming forward, saying they'd always found his stories about me suspicious. Vanessa submitted a written statement about Mark's lies regarding my supposed rehab stay. The court scheduled an emergency hearing. Mark showed up with his expensive lawyer, but this time, the evidence was on my side. Emma sat in the witness chair and calmly explained what had happened, how she'd discovered the voicemails, how she'd confronted her father, how he'd admitted to lying but tried to justify it. The judge listened without expression, then ruled in my favor. Emma would live with me. Mark would have supervised visitation, the exact opposite of 3 years ago. A month after the hearing, my therapist, Patricia, suggested something. Have you ever thought about sharing your story publicly? Parental alienation is more common than people realize. Your voice might help others. I wrote about it anonymously on a support forum for alienated parents. Just my story, the custody battle, the voicemails, the 3 years of silence, the reunion. Within a week, it had been shared thousands of times. Comments poured in from mothers and fathers who'd experienced the same thing. This happened to me too. I haven't seen my son in 5 years. Thank you for giving me hope. Emma found the post one day while browsing on her laptop. She read the whole thing, then came to find me in the kitchen. Mom, this is beautiful. You read it. Yeah, and all the comments. There are so many people going through this. She was quiet for a moment, then said, I'm proud of you for never giving up. Those words meant more than any court victory, more than any vindication. My daughter was proud of me. I'm proud of you too, I said, for being brave enough to seek the truth. She hugged me tight, and I held her like I'd wanted to for 3 years. Mark called one last time, 3 months after Emma moved in with me. His voice was different, smaller, broken. Can we talk? I met him at a neutral coffee shop. He looked terrible. Dark circles under his eyes, weight loss, the confident swagger gone. I've been in therapy, he said without preamble, trying to understand why I did what I did. And my therapist says I have control issues, that I couldn't handle losing you, so I punished you by taking Emma. He looked down at his hands. I convinced myself I was protecting her, but really I was just hurting everyone. Why are you telling me this? Because I owe you an apology, a real one. He met my eyes. I'm sorry, Aaron, for all of it. The lies, the manipulation, the years I stole from both of you. You were a good mother. You are a good mother. I should never have made Emma doubt that. I studied him, looking for signs of manipulation, but all I saw was genuine regret. Thank you for saying that, I said carefully, but the person who really needs to hear it is Emma. I know, I've tried, but she won't talk to me. Give her time, she's hurt, but she's also compassionate. Eventually she'll be ready to listen, just be patient. He nodded, tears in his eyes. I don't expect forgiveness, I just want her to know I'm sorry. We parted ways after that. I didn't forgive him, not fully, but I let go of the anger, because holding on to it was just another way of letting him control my story. 6 months after Emma came home, we were cleaning out the spare closet when she found a box I'd forgotten about. The old Christmas packages that had been returned over the years. She opened them one by one, reading the letters I'd written, looking at the photos of us together. Some of the gifts were too small for her now. Clothes for a 12-year-old, books for a younger reader. But she kept everything. Mom, can we do something with these voicemails? She asked one evening. Like what? I want Dad to hear them, all of them. I think he needs to understand what he did. The next time Mark came for supervised visitation, Emma asked if he'd listened to something. He agreed, probably hoping for reconciliation. She played the voicemails, not all 156, but enough. Starting with the first one from 3 years ago and ending with the last one I'd left just before she reached out to me. Mark sat in silence, tears streaming down his face as my voice filled the room. Week after week of hope, week after week of love, week after week of refusing to give up. The final voicemail played. It's Sunday, I love you. I'll never stop calling, no matter how long it takes. Mark broke down completely. I heard these, he whispered. When you'd call, I'd listen to them after Emma went to bed, every single one, and I deleted them before she could hear them. Emma stared at him, stunned. You knew she was calling and you still told me she'd abandoned me. He couldn't answer, just sat there, destroyed by the weight of what he'd done. Later, as I drove Emma home, she said quietly, I feel sorry for him. You have a kind heart. But I'm still angry. Is that okay? That's more than okay. You can be both. That night, recording my thoughts for my therapist, I spoke into my phone's voice memo app. Mark took my voice from her. He silenced me for 3 years, made me disappear from my daughter's life. But in the end, My voice is what set her free. Every voicemail was a seed of truth, waiting to grow. And when Emma was ready, those seeds bloomed into the truth he couldn't hide anymore. I stopped recording and looked at Emma's door, a crack of light showing underneath. She was home. She was safe. She knew the truth. After 3 years of darkness, we'd finally found our way back to each other. And this time, no one could take that away.